Morning light drifts across the cliffs of Bamyan. Below, a farmer quietly guides his wooden plow through the fields, his life unfolding beneath walls that once cradled giants.
You'd never guess this peaceful valley once sat at the heart of the Silk Road, where caravans carried not just silk and spices, but ideas that reshaped half the world.
Nearly 6,500 feet above sea level, Bamyan lies in the core of Afghanistan's Central Highlands. A land of thin air, long winters, and a silence that feels ancient. Snow from the Hindu Kush melts into rivers that bring life to orchards and plains far, far beyond these mountains.
This is Afghanistan in 2025.
And the Silk Road is whispering again. Before Islam reached these valleys, Afghanistan was one of Buddhism's great frontiers, where Indian monks and Persian artisans met to carve faith into stone. 1,500 years ago, they sculpted 2 colossal Buddhas into these cliffs.
The tallest in the world at the time, painted in colors that caught the first light of dawn.
Around them stretched hundreds of caves, once filled with monks and vivid murals. A mountainside sanctuary watching over the heart of Asia.
They survived earthquakes, centuries of wind and rain, even the fury of Genghis Khan's army when the valley was laid to ruin.
At the valley's eastern gate, 2 ancient fortresses still cling to the ridges. Mazar-i-Sharif, the Red City, and Mazar-i-Golgola, the City of Screams.
For centuries, they guarded Bamyan, protecting the route that once linked Persia to the mountains beyond. When the Mongols swept in, the Red City fell first. Its walls burned, its defenders erased.
Golgola followed soon after. Legend says the king's daughter betrayed the stronghold, and no one inside survived. Their ruins still cling to the ridges, silent reminders of the glory and grief this valley has endured. But in 2001, the giants fell. Today, the niches stand empty, yet not forgotten. A new generation is using light to bring them home. West of Bamyan, the colors of the land shift. The stone softens, the air cools, and water appears where you'd least expect it. 6 deep blue lakes hang suspended between white limestone cliffs, glowing like sapphires in the desert light. This is Band-e Amir the Commander's Dam, a name locals tie to Imam Ali, who they say struck the cliffs and released the waters overnight. Today, it stands as Afghanistan's first national park, a sanctuary of stillness in a land shaped by extremes. Each lake is ringed by natural travertine walls, mineral dams formed over centuries by snowmelt from the Hindu Kush, creating one of the world's rarest natural lake systems. Seen from above, their colors shift from deep sapphire to turquoise, divided by ridges of white stone and surrounded by high-altitude steppe. In summer, locals fish or drift across the mirror-still surface in small wooden boats. It's hard to believe that in a country this arid, water can look this pure. Science says, mineral springs, 10,000 years in the making. Faith says, a miracle. Both are true. Beyond Band-e-Amir, the road winds through wind-carved valleys and lonely plateaus where color fades once more. The water vanishes, and the earth returns to shades of rust and stone. Here, in the remote Central Highlands, the ruins of Chahelberg rise from the horizon. a medieval fortress complex nearly 9 centuries old. Its name means the Fort of 40 Towers. Built under the Ghorid Empire, it once guarded the trade routes linking Bamyan to the west.
When the Mongols swept through in the 13th century, Chehelberg was destroyed.
Its towers shattered, its garrisons erased from history. Now, its crumbling walls blend into the cliffs themselves, their outlines barely distinguishable from the mountains that swallowed them.
Few come this way now. Standing among its weathered stones, you can almost hear the echo of soldiers who once watched the caravans pass and the long silence that followed their fall.
Past Chehelberg, the mountains close in again. The road narrows beside a winding river, the cliffs rising higher with every turn. And then, out of the dust and silence, something impossible appears.
This is the minaret of Jam.
Built in the 12th century under the Ghorid Empire, which once ruled a vast territory stretching from Iran to India. It stood at the heart of Firuzkoh, the Ghorid capital, a thriving city that vanished long ago, lost to floods and earthquakes. At 213 feet, it remains one of the world's tallest brick minarets. Its surface is covered in Kufic calligraphy and geometric patterns that still shimmer after more than 800 years. Some believe it was built to celebrate a great victory. Others see it as a symbol of faith. Local legend even links it to the lost city of the prophet Jonah, adding another layer of myth to its silence. For centuries, the minaret lay hidden, protected by isolation until it was rediscovered in the 1950s. Today, it's recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in danger. A masterpiece of Islamic architecture in Central Asia, and one of the last traces of a civilization the world almost erased. Yet, west of these mountains, that same civilization found new life in a city of poets, kings, and blue-tiled domes that still catch the desert sun. This is Herat, one of Afghanistan's great cultural capitals with a story stretching back more than 2,000 years. Founded on the fertile banks of the Hari River, Herat was known to the Greeks as Arya, a stronghold captured by Alexander the Great during his march across Asia. Centuries later, it flourished under Persian dynasties, and by the 15th century, it had become the dazzling capital of the Timurid Empire. A renaissance of art, science, and architecture that rivaled Florence. At its heart stands the Herat Citadel, or Qala-e-Ikhtiyaruddin, a fortress first built by Alexander himself around 330 BCE, then rebuilt and expanded by successive dynasties as a royal residence. Its massive mud brick walls have witnessed everything: Persian kings, Mongol invasions, the rise and fall of empires. When the sun sets, its towers glow above the city. A reminder that Herat has endured everything and still stands strong. Not far from the fortress lies the Friday Mosque of Herat, one of the oldest and most exquisite in Central Asia. Every inch of its surface shimmers with turquoise and cobalt tiles arranged in patterns so intricate they seem alive. Originally built in the 13th century and perfected by Timurid craftsmen, it remains a masterpiece of Islamic geometry, a vision of order and beauty that has survived earthquakes and centuries of turmoil. North of the mosque, ruins stretch across an open plain, the remnants of the Musalla complex. Once one of the grandest ensembles in the Islamic world, commissioned in the 15th century by Queen Gohar Shad, it included a madrasa, mosque, mausoleums, and towering minarets, some rising 180 feet, their surfaces glazed in blue and turquoise tile. The surviving inscriptions blend Persian poetry with Quranic verses, reflecting Herat's harmony of art and faith. Though earthquakes and centuries of neglect have reduced it to fragments, the remaining minarets still pierce the skyline. A quiet reminder of Herat's golden age when calligraphers, astronomers, and poets shaped the soul of an empire. Leaving Herat behind, the road climbs north through dry hills and open plains. The city's turquoise domes fade from view, replaced by silent ridges and the sound of the wind. This is the Bandi Sabzak Pass, a mountain corridor linking Herat with the northern provinces.
Its name means the Green Dam, though the landscape is rarely green.
For centuries, caravans and armies crossed here, the same route that once carried goods and ideas between Persia and Central Asia. Today it remains a lifeline between Herat and the north. A road that threads through a land both unforgiving and endlessly beautiful. Beyond this point, towns grow sparse and Afghanistan returns to what it has always been: rugged, tranquil, and captivating. Northern Afghanistan has always been different, more fertile, more connected, a meeting point between Central Asia and the steppes beyond. For thousands of years, this region has been a cradle of civilization. And nowhere tells that story better than Balkh, often called al-Balad, the mother of cities. One of the oldest continuously inhabited places on Earth, Balkh was already a thriving center long before Herat rose to glory. It was once the capital of the Greco-Bactrian kingdom, later home to Persian kings and among the earliest centers of Buddhism in Central Asia. Some say Zoroaster himself, the founder of Zoroastrianism, lived and taught here, making this land sacred long before Islam arrived.
When the Mongols came in the 13th century, they razed the city to the ground, leaving behind only ruins and legend.
Medieval geographers described its walls stretching nearly 7.5 miles, lined with massive defensive towers, fortifications that had evolved over centuries. What survives today are the mud brick ramparts and the remains of the Balkh Citadel, or Bala Hisar. Layers of history built atop one another. From above, you can still trace the circular heart of ancient Balkh. Its streets once radiated from a sacred center, now marked by the shrine and its gardens. This radial layout, rare in Afghanistan, reflects the city's ancient design, a holy and royal capital whose shape still echoes through the dust like the memory of a vanished empire. Not far from ancient Balkh lies Mazar-i-Sharif, its spiritual heir. In a land divided by mountains, this city has always been a place that brings people together. At its heart stands one of Afghanistan's most breathtaking landmarks, the War Blue Mosque. Also known as the Shrine of Hazrat Ali. Legend says it was built where Ali's tomb was rediscovered centuries after being lost to history. Whether born from truth or devotion, the mosque became the spiritual center of northern Afghanistan, drawing pilgrims from across Central Asia to pay their respects. Its surface shimmers with countless blue tiles that change with the light. Pale turquoise in the morning, deep sapphire by dusk. In its courtyards live white pigeons believed to be symbols of peace. And legend says they never leave. From the northern plains, the road turns south once more. The mountains close in. The air cools and the journey climbs toward the heart of the country. Ahead lies Kabul, a city rebuilt, reinvented, and reborn more times than history can count. For centuries, Kabul has stood at the crossroads of empires shaped by Persians, Mughals, and countless others who passed through its valleys. Once a key stop along the Silk Road, it became a place where people from India, Persia, and Central Asia came together to trade and share ideas. In the mid to late 20th century, it was often called the Paris of Central Asia, a place of rose gardens, poetry, and open cafes before decades of conflict reshaped it. You can still feel traces of that spirit in the bazaars where merchants call out from behind stalls of spices, copperware, and dyed fabrics. Among the treasures sold here, none carries Afghanistan's soul quite like its hand-woven carpets. Woven in villages from Herat to Mazar, each carpet reflects the life of its maker. The patterns of the land, the rhythm of the seasons, and traditions passed down through generations. The dyes come from the earth: pomegranate skins, walnut shells, madder roots giving the deep reds and blues that mark Afghan design. Once finished, the carpets make their way through Kabul's markets, continuing a trade that has connected Afghanistan to the world for hundreds of years. High above the sprawl on the slopes overlooking the valley lie the gardens of Babur. Built in the 16th century by the Mughal Emperor Babur, who chose this as his final resting place. The gardens remain an island of calm above the noise. Terraces of marble and flowing water descend toward the city below. A design meant to mirror paradise itself. From these gardens, Babur once looked north to the Hindu Kush and south to the plains he had conquered. Above the city rises the Bala Hisar, Kabul's ancient citadel, watching over the valley since the 5th century. It has been rebuilt by kings, shattered by invasions, and scarred by modern wars. Yet it still stands, a symbol of endurance in a city that never stops rebuilding. Not far away stands Darul Aman Palace, the Palace of Peace. Built in the 1920s under King Amanullah Khan as part of his vision for a modern, independent Afghanistan, it once symbolized progress and hope. Decades of conflict left it in ruins, but its recent restoration has returned it to its former grandeur. East of Kabul, the road descends into the Mahipar Gorge, a narrow passage of rock and river where the mountains seem to close around you. Bridges span the gorge, linking a road long used by traders, soldiers, and wanderers alike. A route that has seen both commerce and conflict for centuries. Here, the remnants of empire give way to wilderness, and Afghanistan reveals its raw, untamed beauty once more.
Beyond the gorge, the road continues through a region of striking beauty.
A land of deep valleys, clear rivers, and forested slopes that seem to rise endlessly into the clouds. This is eastern Afghanistan, where rugged mountains meet pockets of fertile green and villages perch on terraces carved from stone. The air here feels different. Cooler, fresher, alive with the sound of water and wind. Though scarred by years of conflict, it remains one of the country's most breathtaking and least explored regions. Amid this landscape lies Nuristan, once called Kafiristan, the land of the infidels, until its people embraced Islam in 1896, and it became the land of light. Here, mist clings to the trees in the morning, and sunlight filters through the canopy. A rare sight in a country known for desert and stone. Wooden homes rise from the hillsides, their carved balconies and bridges built from the very forest that surrounds them. The Nuristanis preserve a culture unlike any other in Afghanistan. Their songs, carvings, and festivals echo traditions that reach back to pre-Islamic times and perhaps even to Indo-Iranian or Greek ancestors.
Some scholars believe Alexander's soldiers once passed through these valleys.
Their legends still recall Alexander's troops, and traces of ancient mountain faiths linger in their folklore. Few outsiders ever reach these valleys. Hidden behind mountains and cut off by the lack of roads, it remains one of Afghanistan's most remote and least documented regions.
From Nuristan, the mountains climb higher still until the forests fade and the air thins.
The valleys narrow into the Wakhan Corridor, a remote strip of land stretching between Tajikistan, Pakistan, and China. Stone villages line the banks of the Wakhan River, their fields of barley and potatoes bright against the barren slopes.
For centuries, this valley has linked Central Asia with the Indian subcontinent.
A thread of life and trade that once carried caravans, monks, and explorers across the roof of the world. About 220 miles long and only 12 to 37 miles wide, the corridor was drawn on maps during the Great Game of the 19th century, a buffer between Russian and British ambitions. Farther east, the land rises above 13,000 feet into the Afghan Pamir. A vast wind-swept world where the Hindu Kush, Pamir, and Karakoram ranges converge. The air is thin, the wind sharp, and the silence endless. Snow-capped peaks shimmer in every direction, some soaring beyond 23,000 feet, many still unclimbed and unnamed. Nomadic Wakhi and Kyrgyz families still move with the seasons, herding yaks across these high plateaus along routes unchanged for millennia. At its farthest edge, the Swakcher Pass touches China.
Though no road crosses it, only glaciers and silence separate the two worlds.
As dusk falls, the road climbs north once more. The desert fades to gold, then disappears into the mountains. Night settles over Bamyan. The cliffs darken, and then light returns, flickering across the valley, touching the same fields, the same river, the same people who have always lived here. The same hands that work the land by day now keep their history alive through light.